Hey everybody, welcome to the channel. Hey guys, we're your hosts, M and J, and today we're taking a look at the MCU's latest movie, Black Widow. The film takes place between Captain America's Civil War and Infinity War, and needless to say, it really should have come out at that time instead of now. Some might say better late than never, but at this point the MCU has moved on. The film is meant to shed light on her character, even though it's coming out after the movie where she died. And since we know how and when that happens, there isn't really any tension in the movie. Every time she gets cornered, you know she's gonna get out of it somehow. And considering how long Black Widow has been a part of the MCU, I don't know why they didn't make this movie sooner. All the original Avengers got multiple movies and sequels, except for Hawkeye. He always got the short end of the stick in these Avengers movies, didn't he? Maybe they could have made a film about Hawkeye and Black Widow in Budapest. That mission is heavily referenced throughout the MCU, including in this movie, and that could have been their introduction going into the first Avengers film. Seems like a missed opportunity. Regardless, now this Black Widow movie feels tacked on. And while I do really like Natasha and learning more about her, I feel like this script wasn't as strong as it could have been. There were elements of the film that I really enjoyed, but I also feel like Natasha deserved better in the end. It also sets up the new Black Widow and some plots for the MCU going forward. Admittedly, I'm not really that excited about the MCU anymore. I feel like it peaked with Endgame, and it probably isn't going to be able to recapture that excitement anytime soon, if it even can. Before we get into the review, I want to let you know that we're going to be covering some spoilers in this video, so here's your spoiler warning. And with that being said, let's get into the review. We get to find out about Natasha's past in this movie, and how she had a pretty difficult childhood. The only time she got to be a part of some kind of family was as an undercover agent with a mom, dad, and little sister, when she was pretending to be an average kid in the Midwest. But that was just so the parents could infiltrate America, and when the assignment was over, she and the other daughter, Lena, were forced back to the Red Room. So she's had it tough for a long time, but eventually she was able to escape and join the Avengers, and she's tried for years to make up for all the things that she did that still haunt her. But now the Avengers are divided, and she goes into hiding with Ross trying to catch her. But her past is now coming back to haunt her, and she has to team up with her old spy family in order to put things to rest once and for all. Yelena is really hurt by Natasha because she ended up getting left behind in the Black Widow program, and she feels like they are sisters even though they aren't actually related. I think Yelena was my favorite character of all the characters that we meet in this movie. I thought she was likable, and even though the situation wasn't genuine, she felt genuine, but I wasn't as big a fan of the parents. They're the Red Guardian and the Iron Maiden, respectively, from the comics, which is cool, but I couldn't help but find them obnoxious. The father did a lot of terrible things, including to Natasha and Yelena, but he was basically treated like comic relief, which got old really fast. I also feel like we should have seen him as Red Guardian in his prime. There's a scene where Red Guardian squeezes into his old suit, and being happy that it still fits. But since we never saw him in his prime, this doesn't really mean that much to the audience. I mean, all we saw was him flip a truck earlier in the movie. It's kind of like if in The Incredibles we saw Mr. Incredible squeeze into his old costume without us actually getting to see him in his prime. Overall, he was this bumbling comic relief who rants a lot and causes a lot of trouble. Eventually, he does figure out that what he did was wrong, and he tries to apologize to Natasha and Yelena, but the script makes a joke out of it. So how am I supposed to appreciate any kind of character growth? Then there was the mom, Lena. She kind of rubbed me the wrong way. I get that she went through the Red Room 4 times herself, and that is terrible, but she's also a child abuser and an animal abuser and a human trafficker, and I kind of feel like that wasn't addressed as much as it should have been. There's this kind of awkward scene where the whole family is back together, and she and the dad start acting like parents, even though they're actually child abusers, and they say things like, "Natasha, don't slouch, listen to your mother," and then the mom just chokes a pig to demonstrate how the mind control works, and it goes on for a really long time, so I wasn't too keen on either of the parents. They both felt really out of touch to me, and I get that they experienced terrible things in their past too, but the execution seemed to work for Yelena. Her drama and banter worked with Natasha a lot better. The villain of the movie, Dreykov, is an interesting character. He has a lot of personality. Taskmaster, on the other hand, had absolutely no personality. Dreykov runs the Red Room, but throughout the movie they make references to Dreykov's daughter, who Natasha was forced to kill as collateral damage when she was taking out Dreykov. But it turns out that they both survived, and not only did did his daughter survive, but he turned her into Taskmaster. This is supposed to be a very dramatic reveal, but it's ultimately underwhelming. They put everything into the reveal, so Taskmaster spends the whole movie not saying anything and just walking around being menacing. The character has no resemblance to Tony Masters, but this version just doesn't leave much of an impression. Instead of being able to learn other people's movesets just by watching them in action, she's been cybernetically enhanced, and they upload the information directly into her brain. They also don't mention anything about memory loss, which was one of the more interesting aspects of Taskmaster, having a special ability that also has a drawback to it. The costume's pretty underwhelming too, so needless to say, this character leaves a lot to be desired. I think Taskmaster deserved better than this. They probably assumed Taskmaster was just an obscure character from the comic that only die-hard fans would know, but he has appeared in other media, including the recent Spider-Man game for PS4, which happened to be one of the best-selling superhero games of all time, among other notable appearances, but he's probably not as obscure as they think he is. It seems like they cared more about this whole gender reveal thing than actually making an interesting character, which is a little ironic since they used a male stunt double for her, so basically whenever we see the character with the mask on, practically the entire time Taskmaster is on screen, it's a male stunt actor. They could have at least committed to it and got a female stunt double. It's unfortunate that this ended up being one of the weakest aspects of the movie, because even though Dreykov was a fun villain that you love to hate, it wasn't enough to make up for Taskmaster. The CGI wasn't great either. A lot of it was blown out and not very convincing, and I actually preferred the scenes where characters were just talking to each other. There was some great drama in this movie, but that's kind of a problem considering this is an action film, and I think it had similar problems that other Marvel movies have had to face, like how the jokes drag on and overstay their welcome, an issue I had with Endgame. One joke that didn't work involved Red Guardian and Yelena. There was actually an article talking about this, but it doesn't actually present the joke the way it played out in the movie. Here it says that it puts men in their place because the girls are able to shut down their annoying dad by talking about their periods. What they're actually talking about is how part of the Red Room's conditioning was sterilizing all of its victims through involuntary hysterectomies. And it's actually a pretty sad situation, which again goes on for too long, but there was a scene earlier where Yelena was lamenting her situation and how she wishes she could have a normal life. This could have been a great point to raise for drama. I'm not even sure why Red Guardian would ask if they were PMSing. He was familiar with the Red Room. Did he not know hysterectomies were a part of the process? This just didn't land, and it would have been better suited if they had recontextualized it for drama, in my opinion anyway. In the end, I think this movie should have come out several years ago, and I really don't know why they didn't. There was a time they were doing like 3 Marvel movies a year. They really couldn't fit this in. There were parts of the movie I did enjoy, but then other parts were holding it back, and I feel like the humor in this movie didn't work in some really important places, and it came off as really weird. I don't think they really needed to have this character be called Taskmaster. Ultimately, they were trying to have Natasha's past come back to haunt her, and that can work, but they could have called this character anything else, and I think that calling her Taskmaster just gave a lot of expectations for the audience that didn't happen. I really don't think this ended up being the movie that we were all waiting for, which is pretty disappointing, but I've also seen worse movies, so I didn't hate it, but I don't think I'd watch it again either. It's a shame that after all these years of waiting, this is the movie Natasha ends up with, especially after she's dead. But that's our opinion. What do you guys think? We'd love to hear from you, so leave your comments down below. Thanks for watching, we really appreciate it. Before we go, we want to give a shout out to @RandboatEnder on Twitter for this great piece of fan art. It's really cute, and we like the Kyle appreciation. It's a really fun piece. We'd also like to give a shout out to our members: Caleb Nelson, Stutania, Tyrant Carnivore, Adam K, Shiny Orc Boy, The Rabbit Mancer, Hunter Rose, General Bolivar, Depth Charge Media, Samaru163, Kopitio Bozinski, Gabby Hime, Sandy Martin, Verdant Range, Butcher7 Actual, Dashhound, and Bandito Bane. Thank you all so much for the support. If you'd like to become a member, you can hit the join button next to the subscribe button. We also have a buy me coffee if you want to support us that way. But if you enjoyed this video, you can leave a like and subscribe to the channel to see more content from us. That helps us out a lot too, and it's free. So thank you all again, and we'll see you in the next episode. Bye everyone. Bye guys.